Hello everyone, John AG here. Welcome back to my channel, Aurex. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel. In this channel, you will find the real information, the real market updates that everyone else simply cannot or will not tell you. So please subscribe to this channel, and I want to say that I love you, all of my subscribers, for your incredible, unwavering support. You are the reason I keep digging, keep analyzing, and keep exposing the financial architecture they are trying to build around us. And please, listen to me carefully. Watch this video till the very end. The information we are about to discuss today strikes at the very heart of the global banking system. Because of the sensitive nature of this truth, YouTube will not push my videos to more people. The algorithm is designed to suppress this kind of systemic critique, so I rely on you to watch, to engage, and to share this message. You are the vanguard of the truth in 2026. We are standing on the precipice of a financial event so massive, so structurally profound, that it will entirely redefine what we consider to be wealth in our modern era. For the past 3 years, the mainstream financial media, echoing the carefully crafted press releases of the International Monetary Fund, has fed you a steady, intoxicating diet of manufactured optimism. They have looked you in the eye and told you that the transition to central bank digital currencies is merely a matter of convenience and consumer security. They have assured you that the global supply chains, so violently fractured during the chaotic years of the early 2020s, have miraculously healed. They have paraded an endless line of impeccably dressed central bankers across your screens to confidently declare that the global economy is in a state of controlled, masterful equilibrium. But behind the polished oak doors of the IMF headquarters in Washington, D.C., and within the deeply guarded subterranean vaults of London and New York, panic is quietly, relentlessly setting in. There is a silent crisis unfolding right beneath our feet, a mathematical certainty that the elites are desperately trying to conceal from the retail investor, from the working class family, and specifically from you. They are hiding a terrifying, undeniable reality. The global supply of physical silver has violently plummeted by 30%. Think about the magnitude of that number for a moment. This is not a theoretical projection for the next decade. This is not a pessimistic model cooked up by a bearish analyst trying to sell you a newsletter. This is the brutal, cold, hard reality of today, May 6, 2026. A 30% deficit in a foundational monetary and industrial metal is a catastrophic failure of the supply chain. But I want you to ask yourself a very important, very dangerous question. Why is the International Monetary Fund, an organization that ostensibly exists to monitor and ensure global financial stability, completely silent on the greatest commodity shortage of the 21st century? Why are they purposefully burying the data regarding the silver deficit under mountains of opaque bureaucratic jargon and distracting macroeconomic forecasts? Listen closely to this next part, because it is the secret the elites are banking on you never figuring out. The IMF is actively suppressing the narrative of the silver rally and this massive supply drop because acknowledging it would instantly, irreparably shatter the illusion of the fiat currency system they are desperately trying to save. Silver is not just another metal on the periodic table. It is the absolute, irreplaceable lynchpin of the modern world, serving a dual purpose that absolutely terrifies central planners. It is the indispensable physical ingredient of the entire technological revolution. And simultaneously, it is the historic, undeniable, incorruptible money of the people. If the global public awakens to the reality that the physical material required to run our hyper-connected world is rapidly vanishing, faith in unbacked paper currencies and programmable digital tokens will evaporate overnight. Let us pull back the curtain and look exactly at what is consuming this metal at a rate that the Earth can no longer sustain. We are currently living through the great technological convergence. Everywhere you look, governments and massive multinational corporations are mandating a rapid, forced transition to green energy infrastructure and autonomous artificial intelligence. But they are building these digital and energetic utopias on a foundation of sand because they completely miscalculated the physical requirements of their own ambitions. Take the global solar industry, for example. Just 5 years ago, standard solar panels used a moderate, manageable amount of silver paste to conduct electricity. But the relentless push for hyper-efficiency, driven by global climate mandates, led to the universal adoption of heterojunction technology, or HJT cells. These high-efficiency panels, which are now legally mandated by environmental regulations across Europe, North America, and parts of Asia, require up to 50% more silver per panel than the older models. The solar industry alone is now devouring hundreds of millions of ounces of silver annually, And here is the terrifying catch that the green energy proponents never mention. Practically none of it is ever recycled. The silver used in these modern photovoltaic panels is layered so microscopically thin and integrated so deeply into the silicon and toxic plastics that the thermodynamic cost of extracting it far exceeds the financial value of the metal itself. Once that silver goes into a massive solar farm in the desert, it is permanently removed from the global supply. It is consumed. It is gone forever. But that is only a fraction of the demand shock we are witnessing. Think about the artificial intelligence boom that has entirely consumed the global financial markets over the last few years. Every single high-performance AI server farm, processing trillions of complex calculations a second, relies on advanced, next-generation microprocessors. These processors require pure silver for its unparalleled thermal and electrical conductivity. You simply cannot build a quantum computing center, you cannot deploy a global, low-latency 6G network, and you cannot manufacture the millions of sophisticated electric vehicles hitting the roads today without massive, uninterrupted streams of physical silver. A modern electric vehicle utilizes roughly double the silver of a traditional internal combustion engine, woven intimately through every sensor, autonomous driving switch, and complex battery management system. Now, add the geopolitical landscape of 2026 to this explosive mix. With international tensions at levels not seen since the height of the Cold War, the global military-industrial complex is operating in absolute overdrive. Modern warfare is electronic warfare. Every single hypersonic guided missile, every advanced radar array, every satellite defense system, and every autonomous drone swarm requires immense quantities of silver. In a world actively preparing for global conflict, sovereign nations do not care about the spot price on the COMEX. They care about securing the physical material necessary for their national defense and survival. When aerospace and defense contractors need silver for advanced munitions, they buy it, they use it, and eventually, it explodes. It is vaporized. It is permanently destroyed. We have engineered a scenario where the world has never needed more silver in the entire history of human civilization. The demand curve has gone completely vertical. You would logically assume that with such massive, insatiable demand, the free market would incentivize the supply to rise to meet it. But what I am about to show you explains exactly why the global supply has dropped by a staggering 30%, and why the mining industry is entirely powerless to reverse this trend. The blunt geological truth is that the Earth is simply running out of cheap, easily accessible silver. For decades, the global mining industry has engaged in a practice known as high grading. This means they intentionally mined the richest, easiest to reach veins of ore first in order to maximize their quarterly profit margins and satisfy Wall Street investors. Today, the bill for that short-sightedness has come due. The global average yield of silver ore has been in a steep terminal decline. 20 years ago, a mining operation might extract 10 or even 15 ounces of silver from a single ton of dirt. Today, they are moving literal mountains of earth, burning vast, expensive quantities of diesel fuel to extract barely an ounce or two per ton. The energy return on investment has completely collapsed, and in our current inescapable environment of persistent systemic energy inflation, the cost to extract, refine, transport, and mint that silver has skyrocketed beyond profitability for many operations. Furthermore, we must look closely at where silver actually comes from. This is a fact the IMF never mentions in their reports. Over 70% of all silver produced globally is completely accidental. It is a byproduct of mining for base metals like copper, zinc, and lead. You cannot simply open a dedicated, quote-unquote, silver mine to suddenly meet the new massive demand from the AI and solar sectors. If the global macroeconomic environment slows down and the demand for base metals like zinc and copper drops, which is exactly what the IMF's own austerity measures and interest rate policies have caused in the developing world, the mining of those base metals immediately stops. And when the copper mines shut down, the byproduct silver production instantly, mechanically vanishes. You must compound this harsh geological reality with the brutal geopolitical shifts of the 2020s. Resource nationalism has taken firm root across the globe. Countries in Latin America, which historically provided the absolute bulk of the world's silver supply, are waking up to the financial game being played against them. Nations like Mexico and Peru, having witnessed the weaponization of the US dollar and the freezing of sovereign reserves over the past few years, have realized a fundamental, undeniable truth. Why should they strip mine their sovereign territory, violently deplete their natural national wealth, and exchange their precious, irreplaceable silver for fiat currency that is being printed into oblivion by Western central banks? They shouldn't, and they aren't. They are quietly beginning to hoard their own natural resources. They are implementing shadow export quotas, drastically raising taxes on foreign mining corporations, and keeping the physical metal within their own borders to back their own emerging regional currencies. The IMF knows this. The massive bullion banks know this. The 30% supply deficit is mathematically locked in. The physical shortage is here. So how on earth are they keeping the price of silver from exploding to hundreds of dollars an ounce right this very second? How are they managing to hide this massive supply failure from the general public and the average retail investor? This brings us to the darkest, most deeply manipulated, and fundamentally corrupt corner of the global financial system, the paper futures market. What you see ticking across the bottom of your screen on financial news networks, that flashing number they call the spot price, is not the price of physical silver. It is the price of a derivative, a paper promise, a digital illusion traded on the COMEX in New York and the LBMA in London. For decades, a concentrated cartel of massive bullion banks, acting with the tacit approval and often the direct assistance of international monetary authorities, has run a fractional reserve system on precious metals that makes the traditional fractional banking system look remarkably conservative. They have systematically created a massive, artificial supply of quote-unquote paper silver. Imagine booking a flight on an airplane with 100 physical seats, but the airline has sold 40,000 tickets for that exact same flight, betting that only a handful of people will actually show up at the gate to claim their seat. That is the silver market. For every single ounce of actual physical silver sitting in a registered, auditable vault, there are currently hundreds of paper contracts claiming legal ownership of that exact same ounce. This paper-to-physical ratio has expanded to absurd, undeniably criminal levels in 2026. The banks use highly sophisticated, high-frequency trading algorithms to dump massive blocks of these paper contracts onto the market simultaneously, usually during off-peak, highly illiquid trading hours. This sudden, violent influx of artificial, phantom supply triggers automatic stop losses, scares away retail investors, and mathematically forces the quoted price down. They do this because if the true price of silver were allowed to freely reflect the reality of the 30% supply deficit, the entire global financial system would implode. A skyrocketing silver price is the ultimate, undeniable alarm bell of a dying currency. It signals to the world that inflation is not a temporary phenomenon, that fiat money is fundamentally failing, and that the central banks have definitively lost control of the economy. The IMF is desperately trying to manage this narrative while they frantically lay the groundwork for their ultimate control grid, the fully programmable central bank digital currency. They need the masses to remain asleep, holding depreciating paper assets and trusting the digital ledger just a little bit longer. But the manipulators are running out of physical ammunition. And this is where the story becomes incredibly urgent for you and your family. You cannot build a high-efficiency solar panel out of a paper futures contract. You cannot power a massive AI data center with an unallocated digital silver account from a London bank. The industrial behemoths of the world, the massive tech conglomerates, the sovereign defense contractors, the automotive giants, do not care about the paper price on the COMEX when their assembly lines halt. When their multi-billion-dollar factory lines are days away from shutting down because there is absolutely no physical metal available to solder their circuits, they will bypass the paper markets entirely. They will go directly to the refiners, the miners, and the physical vaults, and they will pay absolutely whatever premium is demanded to secure the necessary metal. We are already seeing the massive cracks forming in the dam. If you look closely at the registered, deliverable inventories on the major commodities exchanges over the last 24 months, you will see a relentless, terrifying hemorrhage of physical metal. The vaults are being systematically drained. The physical metal is moving relentlessly from the west to the east, from the hands of paper speculators into the deeply guarded vaults of sovereign accumulators. This brings us to the grand geopolitical chessboard and the calculated moves of the BRICS plus nations. While the Western financial establishment plays dangerous shell games with complex derivatives, the BRICS alliance has been executing a masterstroke in physical reality. They understand profoundly that the future belongs exclusively to the nations that control the raw materials. Russia, China, India, and their expanding network of allies have been systematically draining physical gold and silver from Western markets for years. They are actively preparing to back their new alternative trade settlement systems with hard, undeniable commodities. They are watching the IMF attempt to hopelessly hide the 30% silver deficit, and they are quietly, ruthlessly accelerating their physical purchases, effectively trapping the Western bullion banks in their own massive, unpayable short positions. When the music finally stops and the sovereign paper holders simultaneously demand physical delivery of metal that simply does not exist in the vaults, the resulting short squeeze will violently and permanently break the current global financial architecture. What does this mean for the everyday person? What does this deeply complex web of macroeconomics, geopolitics, and industrial demand mean for you, the loyal viewer of Aurex, who gets up every single day, works incredibly hard, and tries to build a secure future for your family in an economy that feels like it is completely rigged against you? It means that we are standing exactly at the epicenter of the greatest wealth transfer in all of human history. When you look at the staggering price of food at the grocery store, the impossible price of housing, the crushing price of energy in 2026, you are intimately feeling the invisible, malicious theft of inflation. You are bearing the weight of the trillions of unbacked dollars printed out of thin air to sustain a demonstrably failing system. The elites at the IMF, the central bankers, the corporate oligarchs, they do not feel this pain. They have already carefully insulated themselves. Do you honestly believe for a second that the architects of this deeply flawed system hold their actual wealth in the fiat currencies they continually, purposefully devalue? Absolutely not. They hold hard, tangible assets. They hold productive land, they hold critical infrastructure, and they hold massive quantities of physical precious metals. They desperately want you to stay paralyzed in fear, keeping your life savings in a traditional bank account that yields nothing, while actively losing its purchasing power by the month, or chasing highly speculative digital trends that can be regulated out of existence overnight with a single stroke of a pen. Silver is the ultimate historic equalizer. It is the uncancelable money of the people, the historic, proven counterweight to the relentless abuses of empires and central banks throughout all of recorded history. When I sit here and tell you that the global supply has dropped by 30%, I am not merely delivering a dry, academic, economic statistic. I am giving you the literal key to understanding the future. I am giving you the specific, actionable knowledge that the international banking cartel is currently spending billions of dollars to suppress and hide from you. If you hold a physical ounce of silver in your own hand, you hold something that requires immense human labor, massive amounts of physical energy, and complex geological fortune to produce. You hold a literal miracle of physics that the entire modern interconnected technological world completely and utterly depends upon to function. You hold a bearer asset with absolutely zero counterparty risk. It does not require a password to access, it cannot be hacked by a foreign adversary, and it cannot be printed into oblivion by a committee of unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats sitting in Washington or Geneva. The IMF is terrified of the coming silver rally because it represents true, unadulterated financial sovereignty for the individual. They are hiding the deficit because when the dam finally breaks, the subsequent price discovery will be incredibly violent and historically unprecedented. The historical, naturally occurring ratio of silver to gold, based on geological abundance in the Earth's crust, is roughly 15-1. Throughout thousands of years of human history and global trade, that ratio held remarkably true. Today, purely because of the massive artificial paper manipulation we discussed, the financial system prices silver as if it were 80 or 90 times less valuable than gold. This is an entirely artificial, mathematically unsustainable distortion of physical reality, and physical reality always, inevitably, wins in the end. With the global supply definitively plunging by 30%, with critical industrial demand skyrocketing into the stratosphere, and with the fraudulent paper manipulation scheme reaching its absolute mathematical breaking point, that ratio is going to violently snap back to reality. The elites know this is coming. They are fully positioned for it. They are simply trying to delay the inevitable reckoning until they have entirely locked the global public into the CBDC framework, trapping the remaining wealth of the middle class in a digital, programmable cage where every single transaction is monitored, permissioned, and taxed. You have a brief, rapidly closing window of extraordinary opportunity to step completely outside of their matrix. You have the ability, right now, to front-run the greatest industrial and monetary panic of the modern era. When the mainstream media finally reluctantly reports on the sheer scale of the silver deficit, When the financial anchors are screaming in panic about massive factory shutdowns and completely empty COMEX vaults, it will be far too late for the average person to act. The premiums on physical metal will be absolutely astronomical, assuming you can even find a dealer willing to sell their inventory to you at any price in fiat currency. The time to prepare, the absolute time to secure your family's financial lifeboat and ensure your generational legacy is right now, today, while the IMF is still successfully hiding the truth from the masses. This is exactly why I pour my heart, my soul, and countless hours of research into Aurex. I refuse to sit by and watch the hardworking people of this world get financially wiped out by the staggering hubris and insatiable greed of central planners. I want you to be fully empowered. I want you to be deeply educated. I want you to look at the global financial chessboard and possess the ability to see the moves 5 steps ahead, just as the financial elites do. I urge you with everything I have to take this information incredibly seriously. Do your own independent research. Look at the declining ore yields documented in South America. Look at the massive, undeniable silver consumption data coming out of the AI sector and the green energy transition. Look at the registered inventories actively draining from the global commodity vaults month after month. The fundamental truth is mathematically undeniable, no matter how thickly the IMF tries to veil it in their reports. Please share this video directly with your family, with your trusted friends, with absolutely anyone who is awake enough to realize that the economic narrative we are being spoon-fed is a complete fabrication. We are actively building a powerful community of truth seekers right here at Aurex, an army of sovereign individuals who absolutely refuse to be silent, passive victims in the great reset of global wealth. I read every single comment you leave down below. Tell me exactly what you are seeing in your local physical markets. Are the local coin shops running desperately low on inventory? Are the premiums on physical silver rising in your area? Your ground-level intelligence, your boots-on-the-ground reports, are infinitely more vital to our collective understanding of this crisis than any manipulated white paper published by a central bank. I love you all. I thank you from the very bottom of my heart for your valuable time, your profound trust, and your immense courage to face the stark reality of our failing financial system. The road ahead of us in 2026 is going to be incredibly volatile, incredibly chaotic, but ultimately, it will be revealing. The entire fiat system is violently shaking, the historical foundations are cracking, and the suppressed truth about physical silver is the exact fault line that will finally bring the old paradigm down. Stay incredibly vigilant, stay deeply educated, and above all else, fiercely protect yourselves and your loved ones with real, tangible, undeniable assets. This is John A.G. for Aurex, reminding you to always seek the absolute truth in metal. I will see you in the next one.